Greetings once more to another edition of What is this? Electric Avenue's YouTube channel. Gosh, I can't remember what episode we're on, but it's in the 60s. And coming up on 2 years of doing video updates here in another couple of months, so that's crazy. I just wanted to kind of go through this week's new releases, talk about a few things. I'm not going to take too much of your time. So, anyway, of course, I just took time by saying that. This week is sort of an off week as far as like the quantity of new releases. However, there are some interesting things, and there's some little tidbits to kind of tell you about that are floating around. One thing of interest that I had one of these last year, and now all of a sudden they've made a few more of these. So if you've missed the Mars Volta box set and you it was like $500 and you were like, yeah, it's too rich for my blood or whatever, maybe you want to pick up one of the individual ones. I have a few of these. Now I had one of these come out a couple months ago. This one, which we'd sold out of and got back in, is this is deloused in the comatorium on gold and dark green vinyl. There's the back. This one, Amputexture. Would help if I had the front. This is on blue and white vinyl. And the last one of this group that I have is Francis the Mute, which I think is probably their most popular album. And this is 3 records. It's on glow in the dark vinyl, remastered using the original mixes for vinyl. So they're not cheap. They're not the price of the box set, and they're very limited. So I don't know if they'll even be around by the time this video goes up. But I just want to make people aware of them. Other things too that are kind of interesting. These are sort of limited edition, but they did a picture disc vinyl of David Bowie's Hunky Dory, which I showed, I think, last week. I don't know how long these are going to be around, but those are kind of cool. One of my favorite albums of his. And we just got in the 45th anniversary edition of Low. It says it's on limited orange vinyl. This is probably my favorite Bowie album. It's certainly up there in the top 3. And it's one of his more artsy albums. There's not really a huge hit off of it. Sound and Vision was probably the biggest single. Yeah, apparently they only made about 10,000 of these, and the UK kept about 8,500 of them. So that leaves 1,500 for the rest of the world. So I will have a few of them, but if you want it, don't sleep on that. So they're going to be pretty collectible, I think. As were the other colored vinyl editions that they did of his albums that are no longer available either. All right, so last week, I'm just going to sort of name check back up a little bit, and I kind of had gone through the new releases, and I sort of passed, well, I didn't pass it. I did call out the new Elvis Costello and the Imposters, called The Boy Named IF being imaginary friend. And the reason that I'm talking about this again is because I got to hear it in full, and let me tell you, it's fantastic. If you have not heard this album and you like anything Elvis sounding up until about 1990, it sort of references all of that. I mean, the cover art is a little bit blood and chocolate. He did the cover art himself, apparently, from what I hear. But the music, the Imposters are basically the attractions, with the bass player has changed people. But incredible band, incredible album. I mean, the songs have such great melodies, and it's sort of naughty in the way that Costello writes, the melodies and links them all together. But the songs are very, well, his pen is as sharp as ever as far as like the biting sort of nature of it, whether it be songs about infidelity, murderers, like just bad people, kind of. But it kind of is like there's so much witticism in it, if I use a big word there, wittiness. So definitely check that out if you have any kind of passing interest in him at all. It's his 32nd album. So sometimes if you're a new fan, it's hard to know where to jump in on something. And it's current, but it still sounds more like old Elvis. I was listening to it the other day with someone, my wife, and we were talking about it and said, it almost sounds like an unreleased album from the 80s. It doesn't really, I mean, in a good way, it sounds sort of like, oh, what's this jewel that we hadn't heard before? So that's great when an artist who's pushing 70 and hitting these high notes, and I mean, God bless him, he's been through cancer treatments and all, and he can still do that. And they did the album remote, like over videos, trying to kind of put their ideas together. Pretty incredible. Another album which I think is great, that's sort of new, and from another important, I think, singer-songwriter artist of this era, is Amy Mann's Queens of the Summer Hotel, which had come out on CD last fall, but is now finally available on vinyl. Looking like an erudite college professor there. So this album was, see, she gets called sometimes like the female Elvis Costello, and I think that's sort of apropos. They've worked together a lot, recorded together, but that sort of discounts her importance as a singer-songwriter also, because I think she's fantastic. But this album was basically, the idea was to do a musical based on the Girl Interrupted story. In the movie, we remember, if you saw it, it had Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie. And so the songs lyrically sort of reference a lot of that. They can be taken out of context, though, and sort of stand on their own, at least some of them, most of them. But yeah, if you're a fan, you need to hear that record. It's sort of quieter, more like the softer Magnolia stuff that she'd done on that soundtrack. But that's just because she has some sort of illness or something she's been sort of grappling with that causes a lot of tinnitus and ear problems, and loud noises were becoming disruptive. So she's like, I'll just do another sort of quiet album with piano and orchestra and a little acoustic guitar here and there and whatever. And it works. I mean, it serves the intimacy of the topics and the music and all. So another person who has long been gone from the world, with a reissue, is Eva Cassidy, live at Blues Alley. A few months ago, I think there was a different one of hers that came out, so they're finally paying attention to her, doing these 25th anniversary reissues. She was already dead by the time this album, I'm not when it came out, but by the time when it really started selling. Her career took off after she died, when Songbird was released, featuring her version of Over the Rainbow, which was considered one of the, I think it was the Smithsonian, I can't remember who named it, one of the 100 most important performances of the 20th century, along with Judy Garland's version of it. But anyway, this is a great album. Oh, and Israel Kamakawiwa Ole, his sort of Hawaiian version of it too. She does songs here like sort of standards like Bridge Over Troubled Water, People Get Ready, then sort of real old standards, Cheek to Cheek, Autumn Leaves, and then sort of newer ones like, I don't know, Take Me to the River, Fields of Gold, What a Wonderful World. Anyway, great vocalist, great performances. She had, I believe, skin cancer, died at 36. So, you look at somebody's career like that and you think, well, if they hadn't died, would they have just faded into obscurity? And possibly. I certainly don't think her career would have been sort of as capitalized on, and in the sales department especially, because of her passing. I remember when that started selling, the store I was working at the time sold hundreds and hundreds of her CDs and multiples of many different albums. So it's kind of sad when artists don't get appreciated like that when they're still alive. but that's human nature, right? It's like it takes a death to remind you how great somebody might have been. All right, so Jazz releases this week. Blue Note puts out Don Cherry's "Where Is Brooklyn," and they also did Jackie McLean's "Destination Out." These are part of the classic series that's been coming out. They usually do 2 at a time. These were mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio from the original analog tapes, and they always sound fabulous. So get those while you can because they won't be around for long. Charles Mingus, this is called The Jazz Experiments of Charles Mingus. This is an older one from 1954. It's been reissued by Bethlehem Records, who is now starting to get into the reissuing scene. Well, it says 1955 on the cover. I guess maybe that's when it was released, even though, it says it was recorded December 1954. The longest piece on here is called Minor Intrusion, which is about 10 minutes long. So that may be of interest to people who love Mingus and haven't explored that era of him so much. It's a little earlier. Quincy Jones, the Heist soundtrack. So Rhino in their Start Your Ear Off Right campaign, usually every January now, they do these. This movie starred Warren Beatty and Goldie Hawn. Soundtrack features Roberta Flack, Doug Kershaw, Little Richard, and the Don Elliott voices on limited edition mint-colored vinyl. So that probably won't be around for too long. Same goes for the Ramones, Rocket to Russia. A lot of people have this record already, but this is on limited edition clear vinyl. And Rhino does a good job with sound, so that might be something worth checking out. I'm not sure what the appeal on this or the sales potential is, but Urban Cowboy, starring Mr. Travolta himself. So it seemed like John, after the success of Welcome Back Kotter and Saturday Night Fever, was looking, and then Grease, was looking for other sort of, he became sort of the movie musical guy. Sometimes he would sing, sometimes not. What they did later, he did another movie with Olivia Newton-John, trying to remember the name. That's how, I don't even know if I saw it. And then Staying Alive, which was another Saturday Night Fever follow-up. But Urban Cowboy was kind of a hit, and this had songs by Johnny Lee, Mickey Gilley. Everyone knows sort of Looking for Love by Johnny Lee, even if they don't know it, they've heard it. So anyway, that's on what kind of vinyl? Blue vinyl. All right. And finally in that group this week, Bad Company, A Greatest Hits Rock and Roll Fantasy. And this features, it's on clear vinyl. So, yeah, well, it's Bad Company. A fun reissue this week from Fun Lovin' Criminals. This is their album, Come Find Yourself. Featured the song Scooby Snacks, that was kind of a 90s alt hip-hop sort of hit. They were sort of like a second-tier Beastie Boys, I suppose. The album sold really well, and then they never really managed to follow it up with anything that people were all that excited about, I suppose. But it's on colored vinyl, limited. I'm not sure how many of those are made, but a new album, Dave Mason's Alone Together Again. You see Dave up there. This kind of replicates the original Alone Together cover. And I don't know if the record is color vinyl or not, because there's no sticker about that, even though the originals on the first pressings were. So basically, Dave loved this album, and it was one of his most successful. And the original master tapes burned up in the Universal fire in 2013, and he thought, I need to do this again to make sure that there are originals of this out in the world. So he tried to sort of replicate it as much as possible, I suppose. But if you're a Dave Mason fan, now the odd thing is that's not available on CD in the stores for some reason. They only put out the vinyl. I don't know if that's trying to be sort of honoring the original or what, but yeah. So, and you think most of his fans in that age group who would have still been buying music would want that on CD, but go figure. Also, Miles Kane has a new record out. Miles might not be a household name in the US, but he was in the band or is in the band The Last Shadow Puppets with Alex Turner of Arctic Monkeys. They're the two main guys in Last Shadow Puppets. So if you like Arctic Monkeys, you might want to check out Miles. His albums are pretty good. He's got a duet on here with Corinne Bailey Rae, who's another name that sort of pops up from time to time. She had one pretty big wave of success when she first came out. As far as other things, CD wise, there's not, there's no vinyl for this yet. It's the new John Mellencamp. Don't ask me why he's got an eye patch. I don't know if there's something happened to him. Called Strictly a One-Eyed Jack, and apparently it's sort of a return to his roots kind of sound. And Springsteen does a duet on it somewhere. Although I'm not sure, his name isn't even listed on the back, so I don't know if that's a secret or what. Keb Mo's new CD, Good to Be, if you like sort of acoustic blues. Keb's been around forever, and friends of Bonnie Raitt. And Tinsley Ellis is another blues guy, Devil May Care. It's his new CD. Sparks, the complete Annette score. Now, I just saw this movie. It was not for everybody, but it starred Adam Driver, Marion Cotillard, and it's a very interesting movie musical that Sparks made. And it's a 2 CD limited edition collectors, 63 tracks, complete soundtrack, exclusive bonus tracks, and demos. So that could be interest to Sparks collectors. And also, I don't have the vinyl of this yet, but Years and Years, Night Call. Ollie is basically a solo artist now, and that's his new CD. Let's see. Last thing I want to mention, I did a Facebook post on this, but I am going to mention it here, is Tears for Fears have a new album coming out called The Tipping Point. This is a cassette single. Haven't seen one of these in a while. Basically, what this deal with this is, because we're a record store day store, you can buy this for $2 and then bring it in the day the album is released, February 25th, and just say, hey, I've got this, and you get the $2 off the purchase of the album. So it's kind of like a free single to buy early. You have to have something to play it on, though, right? This features the song The Tipping Point, which I believe is pretty much streamable on the internet now. And No Small Thing, which is another, I think both of those songs have been put out they're on YouTube even to sort of watch the videos, but they're great songs, and I think things are looking good for them. I don't know, I was sort of doing some like reading and surfing and kind of figuring out what had been happening with them, and apparently Roland, the lead singer, they're both lead singers, but main songwriter, I don't know. I don't want to like demote Kurt at all, but he was his wife was having a lot of health problems and ended up passing away in 2017. He's remarried. The album that they'd been working on at the time was basically going to be a super pop record, and they weren't feeling it. And I think they were working a lot with Dan from Bastille. They'd done a couple of songs that ended up on a greatest hits album. But you think about like things like Weezer covering them, and on that covers record that they did. I mean, they seem to be always sort of around in people's ears. Every time Mad World gets brought out again, it's like, oh yeah, that's a Tears for Fears song. So anyway, the new songs sound really, really good, so I'm kind of giving them a little bit of a plug. February 25th is going to be a sort of a big day for the 80s people, because Soft Cell also releases their first album in about 20 years that day. First Tears for Fears album in 17 years. So, and then also next week I need to mention Jethro Tull releases their first album in I think 17, 18 years, and the last one was a Christmas album. So, and people are saying it's very good. It's sort of reminiscent of their earlier sound. So you could be Elvis Costello, released 32 albums in 45 years, or you could be Tears for Fears and release 7 in like 40 years. Now, granted, 2 of them didn't even have Kurt, so there's really only going to be 5 with them together. So some people are just much faster than others, and it's just human nature, right? So, all right, that's pretty much all I had to say today. Everybody, have a good weekend, and yeah, we'll see you next week for the 28th. Yeah, I don't know. There's a little more stuff coming out next week, and usually around Valentine's Day, things start getting a little more geared up. So, and please just take care of yourselves. There's so much, so many people out there getting sick, and it's kind of hard to get the economy back on track when people are not taking the initiative with the tools presented to them to help us all get to a better place, even if it doesn't keep you from getting something. Anything that sort of helps keep you from being hospitalized should be a good thing. All right, I'm not here to preach. Thank you so much. You guys have a great weekend, okay? Enjoy the snow if you're in the Northeast. It may be gone by who knows when. All right, take care. Peace.